Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. And in this one we are going to start looking at how to create a form for your melody, some kind of structure. And a very common way to do this is to divide your phrase or your theme into two parts, a question and an answer part. The question part will kind of work like a sentence that ends with a comma, while the answering phrase will sort of work like a musical period that ends and kind of concludes the sentence. So to just exemplify what I mean with this, let's take the Hedwig's theme as an example. You can kind of feel that this is not the ending. There's something more to come. And then the ending phrase comes. And it ends. So here you kind of feel that a musical period has been set. And it's a really good way to keep the interest of the listener from the beginning to end, because the ending with the question kind of gives a sense of anticipation for what's coming next. So let's also listen to the Gladiator soundtrack, and you're gonna hear the same thing happening there as well. You can probably feel that this is not a concluded sentence or a phrase. It is more of a question or a musical comma, and then comes the answer that is resolving this question. Kind of feel that everything has been resolved. You've been coming to a conclusion. So this is a very common way to structure your melodies, and let's just take a few examples here. I'm just going to load up the piano, and the easiest way to do this is to not land on the root note. If C, for example, is your root note, you could rather land on pitches in the scale that has a bit more tension, like the second step or the fifth step, which are usually core elements of the dominant chord. That naturally leads to C major again. So landing on one of those notes will kind of create some unresolved tension that the root note will later resolve in the end of the second phrase or the answer phrase. Now let's just take some random examples here and try it out and see how it feels. Let's take C major as an example. And now let's just take a random little melody. Now you can feel that this is not quite resolved yet. It is a musical comma, and then we move on. And we got the answer, a happy little ending there. So this is a very common way to do it, and basically what I did here is that I just landed on this note, which in C major has a little bit of tension because it wants to go to C. The same happens if you land on the B note, which also wants to go to C. And especially, which we'll look at in the harmony chapter, if you land on the dominant chord. This chord really wants to lead up to C. So there's a lot of ways that you can create this tension, which we will look at later, but it is important that you understand the fundamentals of this question and answering roles in your melodies. And one of the ways that is really easy to get this done or to make this happen is if you're using the Private system. If you are, for example, using a presentation, variation, repetition, and destruction, you can use the variations to make the phrase end in a questioning way on something different than the root note, and then make the destruction resolve the phrase, which is what I did earlier here in this little theme. And then I repeat the first phrase again. maybe a little twist as well. And that's it. So it's not really hard, it's not really complicated, but it's a really effective way to create some kind of structure in your melody. So I think we won't go that much more into depth into it here. I think you get the main core of this principle. So see if you can come up with any interesting phrases and interesting themes for your track using the Pervade method and questioning and answering phrases. Let's move on to the next video.